Welcome to the Big Biz Show. Taking care of business. You want fast-talking, hard-hitting discussions on business and finance? Maybe with a barroom slant and some really salty peanuts? We're not counting calories. We're counting cash. Before we get to the man with the financial plan, meet the money team. Costa, Mary, and Greg. Now, Captain Finance himself, Sully.
I was looking at a picture of me at 5 years old yesterday when I had pajama pants on, cowboy boots on, wrong feet, and a towel cape on a big wheel.
Yeah.
You can't teach that. Remember when kids used to go outside and run thinking they were going to fly?
Yeah, holding something also.
Yeah, it was a BB gun, Red Ryder. Yeah. So what could go wrong? I'm going to get a 4.5-year-old a milk carton full of copper projectiles that he's going to just dump in the top of the barrel.
Of course.
Yep. It's like, is this loaded?
Totally.
That was the same year they had those. Remember those red rockets with the water in them?
Look, they were made out of clear red and white PVC pipe.
PVC. Right. It wasn't just plastic, by the way.
Yeah.
It was. They didn't have the UL listing on it. I can tell because UL meant you'll last at least. The Day Trader Trio's here. Good to see you guys. Well, no, James is the same age as so is Brian. You guys remember those damn things?
Absolutely.
And
water pressure rockets.
And why is it that when you're a kid you have to go we're going to put as much pressure behind the water on this hard plastic thing that you're going to shoot in the air in the grass while you're
No, totally. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
but you would pass it around the circle and everyone would do it, and then you get it to go several hundred feet in the air.
I know. And by the way, it would spray.
Yeah. And then there was that seminal moment where someone went, well, wait a second, if I can point it up in the air,
I can point it at Kevin.
I also point it at Kevin.
Can I also say this? Do you know why we were doing that? And because we were waiting for the lawn darts to come back from the Johnsons next door. Howie, do you know what lawn darts are?
I'm sitting here thinking, and Instagram's this big dangerous thing. You guys you had weapons.
That's actually a very valid point.
No, can I tell you the most lethal weapon in our childhood was?
Drinking out of the hose.
What are you talking about, Greg? I'm sorry, Greg. Did you have a rough childhood?
The warm water first.
Wow. Okay, I'll just leave it right there. The most dangerous thing in our life was not Bagel glass or the spare refrigerator in the backyard that Grandpa put out there.
Nope.
It was the slip and slide with a brass sprinkler head. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about? And I grew up poor. I grew up down in National City, and we had no dough. I just used Visqueen that I stole from the construction site and just put water
Baby oil. Yep.
Look who's here, Mary Bird Godwin, a.k.a. Crash. Howie. I don't know how.
Okay, you know what? I'm just like Mary, right?
I don't know why we got on this somehow, but we were talking about the other thing too was remember the water wiggle, which is basically if you turn a hose on as hard as you can.
Yeah. You didn't need the wiggle.
Right.
God, Howard's here. Our satisfaction with the economy is a thing of fear and greed, right?
Yep.
And it's basically they measure it every month for a reason, which is really interesting because the consumer fear index is basically the perception of the market. Mm-hmm. It means really nothing because, let's face it, most of the market runs on those two emotions, unless you're an institution. Talk about what's going on. And is it time to go into the bomb shelter yet?
So it's exactly as you say. I brought out some interesting data when it comes to the expectations that people have. So the University of Michigan does these great surveys, constantly asking questions of how people think about the economy, and they always overestimate the effect. If the market's doing great, it's doing fantastic.
Right. So isn't this where buy on the rumor, sell on the news comes from?
Yes, exactly. Right? The exuberance.
And then there's also the market takes into consideration stuff that happens well ahead of time, right? Is that part of it?
Well, cogent, professional, institutional investors might, but...
Cogent? You got anybody?
Us.
Anybody? You said cogent. Anybody?
Yeah.
That's a 50 center, by the way.
Telly Savalas played him, right?
It's Telly Savalas, not Tony Savalas. Yes, Mike nailed it. An Efren Zibilis Jr. production. The streets of San Francisco.
What was that word again?
Cogent.
No. He was thinking
we're hooked on phonics here at the Big Biz Show.
He was thinking Kojak.
That's what it was, Telly Savalas.
Hi, I'm Devin Dunn with the Big Biz Show, and standing in for Howie today is none other than...
Tis I. Devin, that's right. There's two of us. Suck it, Howie. In today's story, Taco Bell's signature Baja Blast turns 20 years old. And they're celebrating with something called a Baja-versary, which honestly sounds like when Hulk Hogan said, Trumpomania. Cue the clip. You remember. Cue the clip.
And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother.
Everyone remembers. But speaking of things that are 20 years old, let's look at the year that it was created. The same year that brought us classics like Anchorman, Dodgeball, Napoleon Dynamite, White Chicks, Without a Paddle, Mean Girls, Shaun of the Dead, which ironically is the same movie lineup you'd expect at an event catered with something like Baja Blast Gelato. That's not even the best part though. Stoner white chicks across the nation are gonna be in for a field day when they find out that Stanley Cup has a commemorative Baja Blast cup.
I'm about to go down to Taco Bell and get me a Baja Blast.
Which I'm told is retailing for $300 online. But nothing in my opinion describes the state of this country in 2024 better than the thought of the Haktua girl just Haktuing right into a Stanley Baja Blast cup.
You gotta give him that Haktua and spit on that thing.
This is Devin Dunn with the Big Biz Show, and this is Devin Dunn with the Big Biz Show. Back to you guys.
Show is rated M for.
Wow.
Great production value, Devin. Welcome to the last Big Biz Show you've ever seen.
We tried.
I don't know what to say. It's good to see you today. We got a big show going for you, and my question still remains that if fear and greed runs the markets, what runs the economy? And I'll tell you what runs the economy in my opinion. Gas prices and food prices.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it's basically a tax on the U.S. consumer when gas prices go up. Because you don't have any choice, right? So it brings to mind, I don't want to say it, it brings to mind the EV, okay? And you're an EV fan.
No, not really.
Well, not anymore because
Have one, but not really a
can't take a left turn or right turn lane, Greg. But the bottom line is, at some point, if you can get a self-driving EV car out to the furthest remote location in your city, okay? San Diego, California has the beach.
Yes.
It gets cheaper real estate-wise, the 1 mile, 2 mile, 3 mile, 4 mile. If you go out to what we would call Santee Lakes, 25 miles from the beach, imagine if you just get in your car at 8 a.m. and start working. Tell me that this EV and self-driving car are not going to solve three things. A, gas. B, infrastructure. C, the real estate market. In concentric circles, when you think about building things like, what's the sports thing up in LA called? LA Live?
Yes.
It was called.
Where SoFi is?
Yeah, where SoFi.
Yeah.
SoFi. If you look at the real estate values near SoFi, it was a slum.
Yes.
And now you go out all the way to, and I wish I could give an analogy for other parts of the country, but I only know 3 states. But if you go from LA to Orange County, it affected that. I'm just thinking that as long as we're bitching about gas, as long as we're bitching about food, I'm starting to lean towards your thought of EVs and infrastructure, because I think it's going to affect more than just transportation.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, thanks. Good, thanks for.
No, but the only problem with EVs though is that we don't have the infrastructure in place right now as far as if everybody grabs one for just the simple charging.
Or is it
the grid can't take it.
Wait, is it that, or is it the fact that our existing infrastructure, if you drive a Mack truck over the overpass from California to Arizona, it'll collapse?
Well, the weighted vehicle is one. Charging that vehicle, though, is also another major issue.
If everyone in California had an EV, the electrical grid could not take the capacity it takes to charge them all.
Right.
So we're not there yet.
Well,
we've only got 1.2 terawatts as a nation. China, for example, has 2 terawatts.
Cogent terawatts in one show.
Yeah.
My point is this. You know me, I believe they use more, with the Hope and Change bumper sticker and the Coexist, it has as much petroleum in that bumper sticker as you have in your gas-driven car.
Right.
I'm saying there's got to be a one-size-fits-all solution for something that we bitch about every single month: food prices, gas prices. Because the consumer price index, which is our measure of the inflation, what does it strip out, Howie?
Yeah, food and gas.
Food and gas.
Does anything else matter? Do you really care? Honestly,
No.
you're either going to put food on the table, or you're going to have to drive to work. So,
And the way we buy food, it doesn't include. I mean, restaurants and grocery stores are different. They inflate at different rates, and it just completely ignores. Yeah, it's silly.
Okay, so speaking of unfair and what Washington needs to do, other than create a fair tax or a flat tax or put sunset provisions on that. So let's talk about the new bill. They can no longer trade individual stocks.
Well, it hasn't gone through
And
yet.
when I say they, I'm talking about it bans members of Congress finally.
Hold on, Nancy Pelosi just had a heart attack. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been in both houses separately for a couple of years, but it's finally gaining traction. It went out of committee in the Senate. So there's going to be a conference committee bill on a congressional ban on individual stock trading. So you're on the infrastructure committee in the House and you buy, a bunch of infrastructure stocks.
Mm-hmm.
That's because we're doing a deal with McDonnell Douglas with China.
Exactly. Yeah.
But can I ask you this? Do you care? Like, do you care?
I just want term limits. I mean, that's all I want.
Well, of course.
Limit them to one term.
And that's another, of course, it solves everything, by the way.
Right.
One and done.
We don't have to talk about this if they only have one term.
But the stock thing, though, do you really care?
It does. I care about it because if someone is making millions and millions of dollars with that insider information that they're getting, yet they're telling me, well, this is the reason why your neighborhood doesn't have X, Y, and Z, or we can't do this, we can't do that, or hey, we feel your pain, we know what you're going through. That's what pisses me off the most.
So let me ask you this. If sin is sin, okay, if they steal from you, whether it's $1 or $50, it's still stealing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yep.
What you're describing is what they do every day anyway. They do one thing and say another. Why is it worse? And by the way,
Well, I'd rather have $1 stolen from me than 1,000. By the way,
I think the real issue here is it's not so much that it's hypocritical. Yeah. It's the fact that you really can't. Like Martha Stewart went to jail for stupid inside information as an example.
Yeah.
These guys are manipulating stock markets by doing so. I think that's a big piece.
It's an unfair playing field.
Yeah,
is what it is.
It's interesting because in the executive branch, this works differently. H.W. Bush back in the 90s signed a law that said if you move into the cabinet and you sell stock, you don't have to pay anything. If you're Jamie Dimon and you have a pile of J.P. Morgan stock, you're not going to want to become Treasury Secretary.
Because
of the tax burden. So we'll just defer that for you. If you die, you never pay the stock.
What is interesting is when they passed the law to allow Congress members to buy and sell stocks based upon nothing, they could do it whenever they wanted to.
Yeah.
They also passed a law called the Innocent Spouse Law. You know what an innocent spouse law is?
I'm assuming a spouse can trade.
It means that if the husband or the wife
named after Paul Pelosi.
It means if the husband or the wife were handling financial. It means if the husband or the wife were handling financial issues in the house, like tax filings.
Yep.
And the other spouse didn't know that they hadn't filed in 7 years, they're off the hook. Now, I'm
Seems
sorry,
to
hold on
make
a second.
sense. Is that your mom?
It's Paul.
I paid that. It's not my phone, by the way. But long story short, I'm going to say this. There's a thing called sunset provisions that we need to start talking about here.
Yep.
But it ain't going anywhere. And so it's what I was talking about yesterday. You guys were bitching about $3.50 gas 18 months ago. Now, I guarantee you, at least one of us in this room has paid $5 for gas this week.
Yep.
Because we're used to it. So what's the answer? Is the answer that we just...
Well, I'm going to take the other side. I mean, Mike's very reasonable, but I think that we need smart people in Congress, and they usually have investments, and you don't want to discourage people from running. And we already have insider trading laws. We just need to beef up, the FBI or the relevant.
Well, I mean, my answer to that is how's that war on drugs going?
I mean,
like how's that war on underage drinking going?
Yeah, I'm just saying the laws exist for insider trading if they're doing it badly. Well, I mean, this would just stop individual stocks being traded.
Okay, so the 800-pound gorilla in the room is this.
Yeah.
It goes into how do you solve this whole thing? And I agree with you. It's term limits.
Yeah.
6 years for president, 4 years for Congress, one and done because they spend half their time doing what when they're working?
Yeah, raising money
and getting reelected.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I believe, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, I think that would get rid of the lobby. In other words, you couldn't be bought. Sorry, man, I'm only here for 1 year.
No, totally.
Right?
It would at least recycle it. You wouldn't have a guy. If I have something on you in 1985,
by the way, you do.
Which I do, by the way, guess what? I still have it, and you're still in Congress in 2005. I still got you.
Exactly.
Right? I still own you.
So here's the problem with all these conversations. You have to think about in terms of the stock market and the economy, which are two different things, as what is the most accessible low-hanging fruit that could make a change? And I would argue it is the tax code, the 71,000-page tax code, which is roughly a 5-story building of paper. And right now, McDonald's and Target and Walmart can take advantage of that tax code, okay?
Yep.
And if they do so, they can pay no taxes. It's called tax avoidance, not illegal. So if you could resolve the tax issue, you could resolve the economy. Well, I'm on a soapbox today.
Sully for president.
Take it out of here.
But how does that affect quickly all the people that those mega conglomerates employ in the United States of America?
They're trying to beat the tax code every year, just like the corporations are.
Right.
Don't you take as many deductions as you can?
Yeah, of course they do. But if we really start nailing the McDonald's of the world, then they in turn are going to say, well, we can't
Like,
hire
this
as
is
many
because you
people.
like to defend McDonald's. Come on, give me.
I just want my French fries, man.
I have skeletons in my closet of cows.
Mike Taylor is here. He's an investment professional. He's going to tell us what's right and what's wrong. We'll see you in a second. Big Biz Show.
Teased it up, Pipe.
I like it.
Sorry.
Nailed it. It is time for the Sports Biz Minute. It's brought to you by Prize Picks, the fastest growing daily one-day fantasy sports platform in the world. Sign up today at prizepicks.com. In Olympic news, LA will try and make the 2028 Summer Games a carless event and rely solely on public transportation. Venues for the games will be including the Coliseum, which was used for both the 32 and 1984 games in the city. Venues are around the LA region, although softball and canoe slalom events will be staged in Oklahoma City, over 1,200 miles away, to keep costs under control. They're referring to Oklahoma City now as East LA. In golf, Topgolf Callaway Brands is conducting a strategic review of Topgolf, including potential spinoff of the driving range entertainment venue. Company president Chip Brewer, parents didn't want to name him Putt. He's their chief executive. He has expressed his disappointment at Topgolf's performance, confirmed in the company's earnings report for the second quarter that various options were being explored in order for the business to achieve profitability. Finally, in NFL news, season kickoff is coming up on September 5th and 6th with special Thursday and Friday opening nights. The Ravens will host the Chiefs Thursday night, and then on Friday night, the Eagles and Packers tangle in Brazil. Yeah. The country best known for waxing and illegal organ harvesting, they're hosting an NFL season opener. That is your Sports Biz Minute, brought to you by Prize Picks, the fastest growing one-day fantasy platform in the world. Sign up today at prizepicks.com. Once again, here's Sully.
What could go wrong?
Love the Brazilian.
Have we talked about the NFL 22-year-olds and millionaires lately?
In Vegas.
How's that Raiders thing going? Is it good?
They're getting a handle on it.
Do you know why? Because, and I will tell you this, and this is a segue into this, is that of all the stadiums in the NFL, you've got, you don't have San Diego. Hold on. Cleared up here. Of all the stadiums, guess who has the best food in all of the stadiums in the NFL?
Vegas.
Vegas. So, in the light of Vegas, Kendrick Minton's here. He is from Joint Smoke. Don't get that wrong. Joint Smoke Barbecue here in San Diego, and he's brought us some lunch. Buddy, I got to tell you, first of all, it smells fantastic. I have to ask you, how'd you get in the business?
Does it?
I mean, how do you get into the barbecue business? Because you know what, where I'm sitting, you're retired. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? Get up in the morning.
You know, honestly, how it all started is growing up around it, of course, and being around it. But I never knew that was what I was going to do, right? You know what I mean? Until, speaking of Vegas.
It's funny, me and Mike still don't know what we're doing.
And speaking of Vegas, until me and my wife moved to Vegas back in 2005, and I had a lot of time on my hands. And all of a sudden, got a bunch of friends from Hawaii, all chefs, and we would stay up at, we wouldn't start partying until, say, 7 o'clock until 7.
I want to hear, hold on, this is some music on. This sounds good.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like the weekend.
Yeah, so we would start at 7 p.m. They get off work, and they all come over, and we just cook things and try different things.
Wait a second. A bunch of friends got together and started cooking.
Yes.
And you said, this is what I'm doing for a living. That's a license to steal. Who doesn't want to have that life?
Yeah.
But didn't I know it at that point, though? You know,
That's even better.
until they start raving about the food, like the barbecue. So I'm cooking ribs, and I buy this charbroil smoker, $99.
Charbroil Smoker is his gang name, by the way.
Oh, okay. From Smith's.
Okay.
Sure. Set it up and start smoking, offset it. I say, man, I'm gonna do these ribs.
Okay, wait a second. So what we do is, do we grill or do we barbecue?
It all depends on what you're doing. Most of us.
excuse
No.
me.
No.
Please take it away.
No.
Well, it depends there, Nami.
No. Barbecuing. That's barbecue.
Well, that's smoking, though.
Low and slow for
Low and
hours.
slow is
so, all right.
barbecuing.
Low and slow for
It
hours.
would have been an easier question. What's the difference? Because there is a difference.
Grilling is hot and fast, pretty
Yes.
much. You know what I mean? Barbecuing is low and slow. So you got to have patience and time.
Speaking of hot and fast,
Yeah.
how we can't drive. Go ahead.
You got to have patience and time with this, and that's what it became. 7 hours and making a dry rub.
7 hours.
Well, this is a 7-hour smoke right here.
Okay.
But brisket is my main point of interest.
Oh, talk about it.
Okay, so and you're getting into Mike's area here because when you think about barbecue, okay, and I'm like baby backs are my kryptonite, right? Are you barbecue at all?
Love it.
Okay. So, but if you've ever tried brisket, it's geez, Mike's tearing up. What's the difference, Mike?
It's pretty great.
Well, is that tri-tip or brisket?
This is short rib.
Oh, it is. Oh, short rib.
He's talking dirty on the show.
If you ever have beef bones, we call them beef bones in the barbecue world, right? So all this is without the bone. So I found the boneless, and I said, I'm gonna perfect this tonight. You know what I mean?
What?
So I did a 7-8 hour smoke on this, and I haven't even tried it yet, guys. So
Do you? So
Hold on.
you're dry rubbing it beforehand.
oh, absolutely.
How long are you waiting for it to set up, like in the fridge or whatever?
Or you don't set it up in the fridge. Once you take it out, you put the dry rub on it. You got about an hour,
Okay.
hour and a half for it to come to room temp.
Sure.
You want to
Okay,
cook
room
beef
temp.
or any kind of barbecue at room temp. You know what I mean? So the smoker don't work so hard to kick the cold out of the meat.
Can
You
I
know what
ask
mean?
how,
Yes.
how personal or skill-based is this? I mean, what is the difference between me, who's going to give you raw or burnt meat, and then you?
I think you answered the question.
Yeah.
Time-
No, because
time
you were
and
talking
patience.
before, and you said you can't do this at scale. It's got to be very personal. So how?
Time and patience.
Yeah.
And you got to have a soul for it. You know what I mean? My soul
I can't be on the phone
was
for more than
built for
30
this,
seconds.
you know what
I
mean?
couldn't
So-
do it.
And I didn't know it. You know what I mean? It's a gift that I didn't know until later on in life that I was able to start knowing about gifts that we've been like blessed with through religion of God or whatever. You know what I mean? And this is what it came
Kendrick,
down
I got
to.
a question
And
for
it comes to me naturally.
Yeah.
So you're a retail or do you have a shop?
Don't have a shop, so I do all pop-ups. So all pop-ups.
And this is a new gig economy. Talk about
great
this.
model.
So this is the way that you get into business without all of the overhead, correct?
Without all the overhead, and I can keep my quality super high. You know what I mean? So without having a lot of overhead, without having a lot of people touch my food and different things like that. And I got a number that I like to hit. You know what I'm saying? Like as far as quality-wise, you know what I mean? The way I'm set up, I can do 75 to 100 people. You know what I mean? And that's based
On a pop-up?
On a pop-up. Wow. Easily.
Okay, wait a second.
The smoker, are you towing a smoker everywhere you go?
I'm touring a smoker, but I have a small smoker, you know what I mean, that I do right now, and that's what keep my quality levels high as far as to the numbers that I serve.
So it truly is
people at.
small batch. I got a question for you. Scalability creates wealth. If you could do this 75 to 100 people in San Diego, could you teach other people that you trusted to do it in East LA, which is somewhere in Oklahoma? In other, could you scale it in other states if you, or is that too close to a franchised McDonald's operation?
I think absolutely you could, but the thing of it is like you got to believe in the people that you're training, right? They got to have the same soul, the same passion, things like that. Because they can say, yeah, I want to do this, but then they take shortcuts. And I can't
think you
handle
should
that.
train every employee in the country.
You can't lose any
Yeah, I can't
quality
handle
for.
that. So my thing is if I throw out a product and it's not where it needs to be and I'm serving people, I will throw it away because
Do you know what's crazy?
It's not
You-
up to
you're-
quality, up
you-
to my quality.
let me tell you
my
what-
standards. That's
right.
So,
In 30 years, I've interviewed almost every major CEO you've heard of. And I'll tell you the ones that are successful are not doing it for the money. And that's the thing that is special about you. I would say that. Since we're givers and we do it for the children, can we test it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Get in there and test
Put
it.
that in
Find a
front of
way.
us.
Yeah, please.
Kendrick, will you come back with us at some point?
absolutely.
We'll give you as much exposure as we can. I think you need to start mailing this stuff out because there's going to be people in New York City tonight.
God.
Grab
They're going to
this.
want to have some of your stuff.
and that is my homemade sauce as well.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Look at the smoke ring.
We're done.
It just
Walking off
crumbles.
the top.
Look at this.
That's right. Here, Mark.
That's awesome. Holy crap.
Sorry, vegans.
Yeah. We'll do tofu next week.
Absolutely.
Man, that's so good.
Biz Show rolls on. Glad you guys are with us today. Another great show from the Loft 100 studios. Thanks for being along for this ride. I am Costa. That is Greg Todorov, our executive producer. And you just had your hands on your hips.
Day Trader Trio, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see you guys over there.
Best ever.
5 Grammys, 4 Tonys, and a restraining order. You guys are doing great. And an expired Costco card. We were talking about something on the. What were we talking about on the break? We were laughing on something on the break.
Surfing? We were talking about surfing deaths, so that wasn't laughable.
Okay, that was like last Wednesday.
Sorry.
Wardrobe malfunction.
Do you have a memory therapy?
Wardrobe.
Steve Brady, of course, the CEO of Tempest Therapeutics with us, TPST. Yeah, I'm talking about today.
Wardrobe malfunction.
Wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah. Borrowed your shirt to go to the rodeo, and it popped some buttons.
Have you ever 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag?
Yes, exactly.
But can I ask you this? Do you so we're going to talk about liver cancer in a minute, which could have been avoided, Mike. I'm sorry, Mike.
It's okay.
My question for you is: do you have stores that you shop in? I mean, are you a Nordstrom guy? Because I'm an Amazon guy. If it's blue and the other thing's blue, I'm blue.
Beautiful.
Like there is no style here.
My wife is for me a Nordstrom anniversary or half yearly sell. Other than that, we are website folk.
You are.
Or the Ascot shop in La Jolla, California.
Can I tell you this? Can I tell you this? Can I ask this? So do you have certain clothing that you won't put in the washer and dryer?
Yes. Dry cleaning only.
Is it because of maybe the extra helping?
Maybe.
Okay, I'm just checking. I'm just asking.
Red Bear.
Okay. Can we talk about? I want to talk about something that's serious. So we followed the arc of this story of Tempest Therapeutics for a little over a year, and we saw this company that found out there was a significant need for new and effective cancer treatments, and suddenly we've got this clinical stage oncology company that comes up with, and I'm going to say it, you don't have to say it because you're CEO of a company, but a cure for liver cancer potentially. I mean, we're getting close to solid tumor cancers where we're going to move the needle. 2 years ago, we keep on hearing people, we had 7% of cancers cured, which is not great numbers. I know we feel like we're doing good. We weren't doing that good. So you put out some fantastic news on phase 2 top-line data back in October. This stock, and how often in the last 30 years on this program do we talk about stock? We don't talk about stock price. We don't talk about numbers because we don't have to. We talk about the space. We talk about the company and put some light on it. We're not about promoting. I will tell you this. Because of your top line data, and I'm staring on the barrel of 800 years old, in the history of the stock market, there's never been a one-day gainer larger than Tempest Therapeutics. Now, it was based upon fundamentals, right? Who's the lunchroom? Steve Brady. What are they doing? We got FDA top line. It was all fundamental. I would argue that I was personally responsible for 30% of it, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. However, you came up with more data here in May. And I want to bring this up because there's no graceful way to do it from a company standpoint, but the investment community completely put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Okay, missed the entire point of your last press release. Now look and I know this is highly different for many of our viewers across the country and across the world, because we just don't do this. But when you see somebody say, Patriots win, you'd expect to have a Super Bowl parade.
Yeah.
I want you to talk in terms of not only scientific terms, because I think we have a scientific audience, but also in terms of Johnny Lunchbucket City CEO investors, because we touched on it last time, but I think this message needs to get out. Because I'm just going to say it, you're undervalued. Your market cap does not demonstrate what you are as a company. You have not said a word, but I've been in this business long enough in the investment banking side that the chances of you not getting acquired or not getting a path to liquidity are slim and none, and slim just left town. So this is a company that, I'm not talking about the science, I'm not touting anything. I'm just saying, why is there a disconnect between the valuation of this company? And by the way, this guy's taking phone calls every day who's pointing their finger squarely at you for some reason, and that it's not your fault. Is it because the perception of that press release was mistaken or not misunderstood? Because I read it 4 times today. You couldn't have put it more plainly, but people just didn't get it. So talk about what actually happened, and I'll calm down.
Yeah, no. So first of all, thank you for inviting me back, guys. It's always good to be here.
We love having you here.
So there is no perfect answer to what happened I believe it was in June. And one thing that bears repeating is in October, when the stock went ballistic and we put out those data were not the data. They were important
and they were exciting, and they still are exciting, but they directionally were pointing towards what we have now. Because in first-line liver cancer, as you guys know, it's a very large indication. There's an endpoint around the world called overall survival. That's what everybody cares about.
I don't want to stop down. What do you mean by endpoint? Because we hear endpoint in biopharma in terms of FDA.
Right.
When as investors we hear there's an endpoint, is the endpoint define endpoint for the rest of us?
So it's a regulatory endpoint. When you go in and you do a pivotal study, you need some kind of a readout, right? And there's multiple different ones that the FDA and the regulatory agencies in China and Europe, but they all have one that they agree upon globally for liver cancer, and that's one's called overall survival. What is the rate that people are living in your new investigational therapy?
So
by the way, it's also the gold standard.
I was going to say this is the accepted industry gold standard for here. So there is continuity to where every company who's vying for this is shooting at the same bar.
Yeah,
correct?
in fact, what's evolved in drug development over the years is people have been trying to negotiate with FDA and everybody else to do things that aren't OS. They've been saying, can I do a surrogate? Can I do something that will result in people living longer? The data we came out with just recently and the data that we're going to be generating if we do the phase 3, it's all OS. Yep. And the beautiful thing going into it is that you're saying you read it 3 times. The data we just came out with out of the phase 2 are great.
So what they missed was we hit the endpoint goal, and the reason they missed it was because people didn't die?
Well, this is where you get into imperfect answers. I think there's a few variables happening here. One is that, and I guess I should technically say these are my views, even though a lot of people I know share them with me.
No, and we play a disclaimer also. I mean, look, we're not touting this stock, but I think the story needs to get out here because this is a NASDAQ publicly traded company. There are people that own this in their retirement accounts.
Right.
And 1 + 1 does not equal 2 today, and it hasn't for a couple of weeks because somebody misread the press release, or we didn't do a good enough job here on this program, or whatever. But we missed the point. I think it's important for the next several times for us let's get the point out there because you reacted in a way that has never been seen by the stock market in October. We should have seen similar, maybe not to that extent, but we should have seen
dramatic.
Right.
I agree with you. We were flabbergasted because again, everything in October was pointing towards this. Then we had this. And so instead of it going sideways or going south a little bit, it should have done something.
What did people mistake it for? Because they read it as one thing when it was really another thing. You and I have talked about this off the air before. I think that they hear it didn't hit an endpoint, and they maybe took that as a negative. And that
I don't know. I mean, maybe. So when we talk to our analysts and the people covering the stock, there's another positive fact that we came out with in June 2. We got the data. So we hit the 6-month improvement over the standard of care. So the number one therapy worldwide, we hit a 6-month improvement in patients living over that in this phase 2. But 50% of our patients are still alive as of that read. So that can actually get better. Right. And patients were still on drug. And so one of the analysts said, I wonder if that's cutting both ways. I just...
Wait, people living longer and proof of concept is cutting both ways.
You're saving too many lives.
Well, I mean, because theoretically, if you're a strict statistician, numbers can shift either direction until something is 100% done. I choose to look at, when I look at the overall data, because by the way, the other thing was when we looked in the data, we went into subpopulations, right? Because there's all different groups, whether you're cirrhotic or, different types of indications. And the survival benefit was being maintained across all the, key subpopulations.
Right. But people can't live less than they already have. So in that sense, the data can only go one way,
I feel like
right?
are you having an out-of-body experience? I'm looking down at you guys.
No, I'm
floating.
But the math adds up.
I mean, not to ask a religious question.
No. It's actually, unfortunately, it's a stats question about how you build a Kaplan-Meier. But at the end of the day, what we're excited about internally, stock market aside, is what do people want from us next? They want to know what the FDA says, right? Because we can have great data, go to the FDA, and they say, well, we don't agree with the way you want to do this. The thing that was best out of the phase 2 is the thing that we're going to go to FDA with to get the drug approved, and we're going to design.
And you couldn't have gone to go to the FDA if it had not hit those marks.
Yes,
I think that's important.
We wouldn't have an argument.
Before you get out of here, what does the second half of the year look like for you? What's next? We're going into phase 3. We're trying to fund phase 3 potentially.
Yes, we still need to fund the phase 3. The biggest next thing for us is when do we get what are called our FDA minutes? Right. When does the FDA, we have formal interactions with the FDA. We've guided the street that we expect to hear back by the end of summer, which is sort of, soon. And what that does is it removes risk. Yep. That tells everybody, okay, now I know what the FDA agreed with, what they didn't, and what you guys are going to do, and how long it's going to take, and all that good stuff.
Steve Brady, it's always great to have you back here. And by the way, folks, for our Bloomberg audience, you'll see a special with Steve Brady tonight, and again coming up in a couple of weeks, of course, because they just like to have him just talk to Mary. I'm not allowed on the set, by the way. Steve Brady, Tempest Therapeutics. TPST. Go read the damn press release again.
There's a really good baseline in 46 and 2.
Oh, okay.
I love when CEOs of public companies are really hippies, like baseline. Like the Nike guy, Phil Knight. See you in a minute. The Big Biz Show from the Loft 100 studios in sunny Southern California. In over 175 countries and all the ships at sea on the American Forces Network. To our brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces, for what you do, what you have done, we salute you as always. Costa, Greg Todorov. Thanks to Kendrick for bringing in meat. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
You know,
good.
When you're walking by the TV and they got Food Network on and somebody's doing the smoking thing, you always hear about it. Yeah. I never actually tried that. Even when we were playing in Austin, I never tried it. I default to the ribs.
Yeah, ribs are awesome.
Default to the ribs.
Oh yeah.
Boxing reference there.
Yeah, no, but it was fantastic, and what's
Phenomenal.
interesting is, well, it's like my daughter Delaney, who's a doctor of physical therapy, is not opening up her own practice. She's licensing out her name called Sway Physical Therapy and teaching new physical therapists how to get clients in every city and take a little chunk. That's a pop-up business.
Yeah.
It's the new, I don't want to say it's a gig economy because it's a little more than that.
Yeah.
But if this guy can feed 100 people in San Diego or LA, he can feed 100 people in New York.
Oh, of course.
The problem is we don't have standards. He has standards.
Exactly.
Right?
So yeah, he said you get someone cutting the corners going, well, Kendrick does this with his rub, but I'll just use this, and it's like it's not the same.
Yeah, I'm not going to use his barbecue sauce. I'm going to buy Chris and Pitt's because it's
Kraft.
What is your favorite barbecue sauce? Because you are having for dinner tonight, right?
You
know exactly where we're going to find the barbecue the second we leave.
It is it's a Carolina mustard. It literally comes in a white.
You're a
bottle.
mustard guy?
I like Carolina vinegary mustard barbecue sauce.
Do you have that much of an opinion?
No, not really. No.
Ketchup, little ketchup, and some brown sugar.
Okay, what do you like? You like heavy Texas?
No. What's heavy Texas? Heavy Texas?
Well, heavy.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good.
Are you guys barbecue on connoisseurs? Do you have an opinion on this? Is there a brand name? Because I have the brand name.
No brand name, but I'll eat it.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. There is a barbecue sauce company.
Okay.
That is called Noni's.
Ooh.
And and by the way, they have it like Ralph's or whatever, but it's at the bottom shelf.
Okay.
And you know what? I drink a bottle every day on the way home.
Is that right?
Ram Makunda is the founder and CEO of IGC Pharma Incorporated. Their stock symbol is IGC, of course. This is an interesting company because they're talking about THC-based, speaking about smoking,
yes,
THC-based treatment under investigation for FDA trials for Alzheimer's disease. And every time he comes on the air, he makes some more noise about it with respect to our viewers and such. So we thought we'd have him back again because we need to know how it works. And it's a very specific piece of Alzheimer's that he talks about. Welcome to the program, Ram. How are you?
Doing well, Sully. Thank you. Thank you for having me on again.
I've got a question because we got emails about it last time. Obviously you have a therapy that treats agitation in Alzheimer's disease. But how does it exactly work? I mean, what is it, when you hear about, and I realize this isn't CBD, it's THC, but when you hear about cannabinoids, they attach to other cannabinoids in our bodies and so on and so forth. What's the mechanism that makes this work?
So that's a very interesting question. THC, as you know, is psychoactive. And in higher doses, you get high, you get dizzy, there's all kinds of things that happen. But in very, very low doses, ultra low doses, when we're talking about 1.5, 2.5 milligrams per milliliter, very low doses, it does something that's quite surprising. It promotes neurogenesis, meaning that it actually promotes the growth of neurons. It increases mitochondrial output, so it makes cells more efficient. And it's non-toxic to neurons. And what we were able to show is that in many of the studies that are on cell lines very specific to Alzheimer's, that it actually clears one of the two hallmarks of Alzheimer's, which is beta amyloid plaque. So at ultra low doses, it clears plaque from the brain, and we were able to show this even in a mouse model of Alzheimer's. And what we've done now, so that mechanism of action is related to neuroinflammation, so reduction in neuroinflammation, and also rebalancing the neurotransmitter that are imbalanced because of the disease. So that's sort of the mechanism of action at very, very low doses. Now, of course, at higher doses, it does something completely different. So THC is biphasic.
Ram, as far as somebody who's just been diagnosed with Alzheimer's versus somebody who's had it for a long time, unfortunately, does it help one of those other people better?
That's a good question. We're still investigating that, whether this is more for advanced Alzheimer's, where in your brain you have a lot of beta amyloid buildup, and you also have another protein called tau, which also breaks down and that kills the neuron from within. So two things happen in Alzheimer's. One is that there are these plaque deposits between neurons, which cut off the circuitry or the communication between neurons. And the other is tangles, which kill the neuron from within. So at later stages of Alzheimer's, this taupathy or this tau, the tangles start to become more and more and more, and neurons are killed, and then your brain actually shrinks in size. So that's for more moderate to advanced Alzheimer's. In the early stages of Alzheimer's, what you have is beta amyloid being built up or the plaque buildup, but the plaque buildup doesn't really start to impact memory until the tau also starts to disintegrate. So this particular medication, is it good for early or is it good for late, is a very good question. We're still investigating that, but we think that it's a very good early medication, that it can actually be used in the early stages of Alzheimer's.
Ram Makunda, the founder, CEO of IGC Pharma Incorporated, ticker symbol IGC.
Hey, Ram, so we're talking about all this wonderful medicine outcomes and what it does, but you guys are actually proving it up because we've got top line phase 2 and so on and so forth. Talk about the data that's coming out.
Sure, that's very good. So we do have phase 2 top line interim results, and the interim results, what they show is that it dramatically decreases certain neuropsychiatric symptoms that are associated with Alzheimer's. For example, it decreases agitation. And agitation in Alzheimer's is a chronic, it's not a agitation because there's road rage, someone did something and you got mad. That's part of agitation, but agitation is defined as physical agitation, verbal agitation. Disrobing is part of that.
I think me and Mike might have it. I have a question, Ram, before we let you out here today. Is there any preventative indication in this, or is this something to be taken in the acute phase? Because obviously we're hearing more about this in the news every day, so obviously you got to ask the question, is there any preventative, and is it useful in any other indications?
So we think it's preventative. I think it's something that can be started when you're, late 40s, 50s, where if you get beta amyloid buildup in your brain, not everyone does. So if beta amyloid starts to build up in your brain, then this could be an early medication that can be used. So that's something that we still have to prove out through clinical trials, but that's one of the things that we're aiming to show.
We got to get you in studio, man. We get to talk to you about it. You're doing good work here. Ram Makunda, founder and CEO of a company called IGC Pharma. Stock symbol IGC, as it were. You know anybody in your family has Alzheimer's?
Yes.
That is a tragic thing.
No, it's awful.
It's like they're going to the sunset.
It's the sundowner syndrome.
I thought of that. Apparently I didn't. No.